got them watching a separate division.
I'd like to call the meeting to order, the Board of Directors of the Bristol County Water Authority. It's Thursday, June 26th. It's about 5:08 p.m. 5:06 p.m. First item on the agenda, following call to order, is public input. I don't see any members of the public, so I don't think there's any public input. The next item on the agenda is minutes, approval of minutes.
Move to approve the minutes of the annual meeting.
Second, any discussion of the minutes, any corrections, any issues? Hearing none, all those approve, in favor of, thank you. All of you who are in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Move to approve the minutes of the regular board meeting of May 29.
Second.
Second. Any discussion, corrections? Okay, all those in favor of approving the minutes of the board meeting of May 29th, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Okay, we'll move on to the executive director's report. Item 4 on the agenda.
Good evening, everybody. Okay. The Pawtucket Pipeline Project, I guess the of most importance is that I received a request for a contract amendment. Mike and I are going to go through it, but they're asking for an additional, as you can see, almost $500,000 for work associated with the bridge at 10 Mile River, the blending and control station, which is being relocated from what was going to be the VFW property to Kent Heights, and additional geotech services. The amendment would increase the total contract value to $2.4 million and change, but I just wanted to make the board aware of it. Also going to be meeting with East Providence representatives next week to go over it as well, because we would need their concurrences as well. So
Had they agreed that we're going to use the same blending station?
yes,
Already? So that's already,
yeah.
Has this money already practically been spent? I mean, in terms of already incurred the work, or is this to be done?
Majority of it is to be done. There are some items that were already completed. There were some geotech borings that were done that we gave them the okay to go with. I mean, there's still money in the contract budget currently. So they're just kind of recouping those costs because they were additional at that time. With respect to the treatment plant and the new maintenance garage, the RFP was issued on June 10th. So it was advertised in the Providence Journal. A number of bidding groups picked it up and put it on their sites as well. We did have folks download the documents. We did have a pre-proposal meeting on June 18th. Unfortunately, we had no attendees other than Director Fales. And I have yet to receive any additional inquiries. We'll continue to put the word out and we'll do what we can. But, I'm not sure. I know we had some folks that expressed interest, but they have not come back and asked for some additional site visits at this time. But they just feel they still have time because it's not. We can see the schedule. We're giving folks plenty of time to put something together. So, and the proposal's not due until August 14th.
So the idea is if there are any questions that come up, they should be submitted by July 9th, and then our responses come out like a week later on the 17th.
Yes.
Okay.
And for the garage, there's a task order request that's later on in the meeting. Corporation for the design work. With respect to the Kicking Dam removal project, nothing has really taken place up there. It's kind of status quo. I don't anticipate real plantings happening now until probably the fall, just for kind of summer season. Put anything in the ground, just kind of die with the heat. And I participated in a webinar sponsored by the Narragansett Bay Estuary Program along with a bunch of scientists. If you happen to catch that, I thought my presentation along with Save the Bays was the most interesting. The others were okay.
I watched it myself, and it was the most interesting.
But it is interesting to the fact that it has gained, interest, I think anyways, of scientists, researchers. I guess it's kind of a rare event where you take in what was a former freshwater body, transformed it now into a tidal estuary, and how how that whole ecosystem changes with respect to the vegetation, animals, different fish, what have you. There's even someone analyzing the changes in methane releases from going from freshwater to saltwater.
I was driving down Child Street the other day, and I caught the tides just at the right time to see this, but it was an amazing change in the direction of the current, and it was, the tides were coming up the Kickamuit, and you could see the water just changing direction and everything. It was pretty interesting. And then when I was coming back, I came the northern route, and there was not a lot of water up there, but entirely different look.
What's that area up on the other side? That looks like they've made a road and cleared it all out.
What they tried to do was kind of put back what they thought existed prior to the dam being there. So it continues to create that kind of like that serpentine look for the river during low tide. I know right now it kind of looks like a
pocket.
It's like a little peninsula that comes out to it, but that whole area is supposed to get planted at some point. And then for the pipeline removal project that I've talked about, the consultants are putting together the plans and permitting documents for the removal of that. We did have a meeting with Rhode Island Energy, who's doing improvements to the towers that run through there, and even though we're sort of kind of close to their work, we're not going to really be able to kind of coordinate as far as access and things like that. But it's good that we've met with the people involved. They're very responsive, and we can at least coordinate as to when the timing of each project happens, so contractors aren't bumping into each other. On that note, though, we applied for a grant from the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation. Those are the folks that we received almost $2 million worth for the dam project. Unfortunately, they did not accept our proposal for this project. So we'll continue to look for additional funding opportunities for that work. Okay, then for the lead service line program, I guess just of note is that we have we're working with a DOH contractor called 120 Water. The state had some money left over to the end of their fiscal year, and so they reached out and they're performing house-to-house inspections for those customers that we don't have the information on their service lines. and they've actually gotten a pretty decent response. We sent out an initial letter. They're follow-up phone calls for appointments. I know last Friday they had 20 inspections. And we've also had people actually take the survey because on the letter that we send out, we note that, well, if you don't want to have someone actually come to the house, you have the option of actually just taking the survey. Those who want to know, you just want to know what type of material your service line is.
Excuse me, sir.
Yep.
A couple of pages into your report, you have a table with regard to the lead service line replacement program.
Yep.
And you have a column talking about total unknowns, presumed non-lead, and remaining unknowns. Is that the result of the surveys and that have been done to come up with that?
Yeah,
Final column
the
there?
column on the far right
Yeah.
are the remaining unknowns that we're looking to get that number down to 0.
Oh, okay, so,
The presumed non-lead that's been accepted by DOH as being non-lead.
okay,
And that was based on an analysis that we performed in-house of looking at all the data of all our records. And we saw that there's no galvanized services installed at a certain date. And so then we presumed anything after that, if we really didn't know, we presumed that there was non-lead if the house was built after a certain date.
so out of originally it was like 2,300 almost, and about 90% of them are now presumed to be non-lead.
Yep.
And so they've got only 10% of them that are remaining as unknowns at this point, which is pretty good.
Yeah, that's very good.
Yeah.
When this company you mentioned, I don't know the name already, is somebody from BCWA going with them so they could get like a picture for the, I know you guys go into a house and take a picture of the meter and everything else.
They're doing all that for us.
Oh, they're doing it, they're
Yes.
giving you the pictures?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, they're doing all that for us. They're badged. They have BCWA badges.
Okay.
So. On Putnam Avenue tank, just having maybe for part or wrap up some additional hydraulic modeling that we've asked them to do to develop a long-term plan for that facility. And I know we had talked a little bit about issuing RFP for wireless infrastructure for our cell tower. We put that on pause at the moment because one of the possible options for the tank is removal of the tank. Doesn't make any sense to put out an RFP, then a year or two from now we end up taking another tank. Water purchases continue to decline except until this past week. But yeah, up and through May, as you can see, it was 6% less than the prior 5-year average. We'll continue to monitor that, obviously. And for the energy management program, we had some inspectors come in. There were consultants working for Rhode Island Energy. It's a free program. And they conducted energy audits at a few of our facilities that were recommended under the program. And that was this building, Net Road Pump Station, and the Medicon Apple Pump Station. Should be getting a report from them shortly. And then with respect to public information, as required, we have issued our 2024 water quality report. You've all received a copy in the packets. And as far as public notification goes, we send out postcards to all our customers, notifying them of the report. They can find it on the website. We also have printed copies at town halls and libraries. The CC, the report's all is completely on our website as well.
Mr. Martin,
Hi.
hi. Do you think this energy management program, energy audit, would be of interest to the properties committee? Is there something you might want a presentation of?
No,
No?
No, because I've been to them before. They'll come to a town and next thing you know, everybody gets LED lights and they do that sort of thing.
I don't,
They did it through all the, that's the reason to say this, because they did it through all the fire stations and everything else in the towns. So they're just weaning down to
Okay.
that. So all of the lights would be LEDs, they would provide them, and supposedly your electric bill would go down and things of that nature.
I'm not really anticipating that fight in the facilities. I think we're pretty well up to speed.
I have one question, comment, or whatever, regarding the pipeline to Pawtucket.
Yep.
I just want to suggest that we get, for those interested, we're almost at 90%.
Yep.
What are we going to do? I looked at the schedule and it says we're going to do it. Are we going to get a single contractor, a GC, to go and do the thing? Is that what we're going to look for? Or are we going to do it? Or is BCWA going to see pieces of it? Or I'd like to get a group together that says, okay, here's how we're doing it, here's the spec. Spec's probably got to be 4 feet thick.
Yeah.
Steve and I did talk about this too a little bit, and one of the things is, it was my responsibility that we were going to call in somebody who's been involved with some large projects similar in scope, to talk to them with staff and some board members about how we might approach this. So your thoughts haven't fallen on deaf ears.
Well, I looked at the schedule and it's okay, but who's the watcher of the schedule? Who's the watcher of the bucks? And yeah, okay, that's gonna be a load, that
It's all of us.
Yeah, but I mean, for however many years it is, that's almost like.
Yeah, as we slowly get closer, I mean, it's been a long haul. I mean,
Yes.
it's taken a long time. This amendment, while not entirely unexpected, Mike and I really have to go through this and meet with them and, talk about how we're gonna, the things they're gonna do. Meet with Beta.
Okay.
Yeah. But I'm also gonna meet with East Providence too. But we also need to start thinking about, how are we going to bid this out? I mean, and right now, the plan is just do your typical, get the design done, get the permits in, right? Get the permits in hand, bid the project as a whole, one big, massive job, and have one general contractor be responsible for the entire thing. But there are other ways you can do this. Right? Like I said, we're talking about with one. I mean, it doesn't lend itself to breaking out certain sections of the project, while you're waiting on permits for other specialty things, right? So, because you have, for instance, you have a length of a pipeline that are within East Providence controlled streets, from the tank down to Martin Avenue. That's a segment. And then the majority of the pipeline then is in DOT streets. And then you have the specialty crossings, the crossing of 195, which is a boring contractor. You're going to have a crossing, trenchless crossing at the northern limit of the work at the railroad, which is another boring contractor. Then you're going to have two structural bridges, one going over the 10-mile river and one going over the railroad. So these are things that we're going to try and flesh out with the contractor, talking to other folks, East Providence as well. So.
One of the questions that's been raised, I think, in some informal discussions that we had really quickly was the staff does a great job in managing all the projects we have now. We have consultants on board also to provide additional assistance on all of these projects, but at what point, when we get into a big project like that, is it something that we need to do something different or add additional horsepower to our operations here to make sure that we are looking at our best interests and our ratepayers' best interests and the operational aspects of it, how it all gets put together. And, you know, I think I mentioned last time, I'd like to see the project start as quickly as we possibly can, but does that result in something that's bad, or where you have something piecemeal and it's not, and we have to look at the coordination of that? So this is something over the next couple of months, not a long-term thing. We need to come to some decisions and
Well, that's
uniform
like
thinking.
the blending station, for instance. Have they been working on the blending station so far? It's gonna be by the Knights of Columbus? And now we're gonna move it to another location, so is that, we funded it to be done, by the, whatever the name of that little golf course is.
Right.
So we did something there. Now they're saying, okay, we're gonna move it by the water tank. Oh, it's a blending station. Is it gonna be twice the size because East Providence is gonna use it? How much of the effort to date can be applied to the blending station at the top of the tank?
Right. No, those are the things that those are the things I gotta work out with respect to this additional request for funds. You know, because they have taken that design to a certain level already, so, and that work is not going to be lost. I mean, that's obviously just gonna be transferred over to a different location. So, but then, you know, how much different is it just adding each province to that? So those are the things that we need to look at, so.
Steve, do you anticipate that East Providence is going to want to manage this with you 50/50, or how is that going to look? Or are they more looking to you and they're going to pony up half the money?
They haven't been very active in this design phase. So they've been just relying basically on mainly on Bristol County Water. Yeah.
It's a lot of money to not have input, right? So, I mean, the fact that they might trust you is great, but I'd be surprised they're going to spend 30 million or something and not want to have skin in the game.
I think also that our group here needs to get a better, I personally need a better understanding of where we are and who's digging what and when, and so how close are we on all the permits? And I don't know, I understand you got a permit, how many permits do we need to get out there? How many are approved already?
Would it be of any help if I had them come down, Beta come down here and do a presentation to the board as to where we're at?
Personally, I would
think that would be a
like
good idea.
to get a better.
And then you
grasp
could
on
ask
where we are.
questions directly to the project manager. I think would be good.
I appreciate that.
Is there any kind of background information as to which route would be least costly or the fastest? One major contract, or say 3 separate ones?
As far as the route goes, that route's been finalized. So
No, I'm talking about the construction part of it. If you had 3 separate contractors working at one time,
yeah, well, that's what we need to work out, John. Yeah.
Question, Joe. The agreement we have with East Providence, does it address governance somehow in terms of this project? I don't remember. And then,
Of construction?
yeah,
No.
you know, in your experience, I guess in your experience, a project like this, and maybe it's just unique, but you don't have to answer this today, but what would you recommend in terms of how we have a governance structure, given that we may have a 50/50 project for a lot of money here? So, I'd just rather solve it up front rather than get into, you know, problems later with.
Oh, I agree with everything you're saying, and it almost seems like we have to have a, you know, this organization here started out as, you know, as a tri-town committee, before it was even an organization, looking at how they were going to proceed and put everything together. And you had to have the cooperation of the 3 towns. So now we've added a fourth town here into the Bristol County Water Authorities almost. And you could almost start to ask 1,000 questions here that go beyond just this pipeline. And so, yeah, at some point, we're going to be in this for real. We've got good cooperation with these provinces right now, but as you're pointing out, it's going to all of a sudden, you know, it's like, what was it, Everett Dirksen said, $1 million here, $1 million there, sooner or later you're talking a lot of money. Now it's billions, but in our case, it's $30 million if we're talking about a $60 million project. How much of that is it really attributable or expected to be the responsibility of the city of East Providence? And if it's going to be the city of East Providence, well, shouldn't they be seated at the table here? And how does that work? And so there needs to be some, you know, I don't know, subsidiary here, perhaps developed or something. Or maybe it's just a nice agreement. I don't know, but it's something we're going to need to, because it's all of a sudden going to hit us.
Yeah, but the thing is, we're committed to it already.
Well, we're committed to it regardless whether East Providence participates financially. We're hoping, and you hate to get to a point where we say we funded the whole thing, and East Providence has a situation where they need the water from us, but they never participated. Do we say, well, we're going to charge you X amount beyond what the cost was to recover our costs? Then you're going to get the Public Utilities Commission probably involved. No, okay, he's saying no.
Way,
Yeah, but the point here is there's a lot of unknowns and a lot of questions. And certainly it would be nice to be able to spread the cost of this to another community as well. So.
Yes, well, we'll learn more, because now, I mean, this is this amount that Beta is looking for. I mean, first of all, I need to be comfortable with this number, and then it has to be presented to each province, and this doesn't just get approved by their DPW director or or the superintendent. I mean, this would need to get approved by their city council. Now, you have new city council members. I mean, the mayor's been the same, but there's new city council members since the last time we went before them for an amendment. So how they accept this increase will be interesting to see. And then, of course, the costs for the construction will come out at that time as well. So we'll have a really good idea as to where they're at. But I think we should move on to the next slide.
Yep. All good points.
No. But we can at least, I can set up a date to see when they're available, hopefully maybe next meeting.
Even if it's committed, you can hold a separate meeting.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
outside
separate
the boundaries
meeting
of
if you
the
need
board meeting. It could be documented and stuff.
Okay.
At their availability, you know,
Sure.
that's the hard spot.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Mike's away. Dan's away.
Joe's away.
Any questions on your reports?
No.
Colin would be happy to answer any.
Yeah.
Yes, right.
When are they gonna start taking that?
Pretty long over there, Colin.
What is it?
When's Gooding Avenue gonna get done?
That, we just got an updated schedule from what already they're gonna be doing Child Street first.
Oh, that's when we're down here?
Yeah, the first thing that needs to be done is the installation of a line stop on Barker Ave. So they're gonna be digging for that until, as far as the most recent schedule, it's on July 7th. And then they're gonna install it the next day, and they're gonna be basically doing the whole project in July. So do everything while they're here. Shouldn't take too long, but I would just to be safe. Late July, early August for good.
The two big projects in Bristol, the high school and the Bristol Lofts project, which I didn't know that's what it's called, but we have written down here. I can't imagine that the high school is going to cause any change of use or change in demands on our system because it's just another high school. We're not like we're adding, expecting a huge increase in population in the high school or anything like that. But the Bristol Lofts, I mean, that building that's being converted on Thames Street in downtown Bristol hasn't been occupied in many years. So there are going to be some major impacts on existing streets, lines that we have in that area.
We did get some calculations from them about the demand, and I don't think there's anything, we didn't notice any adverse effects in the area, but I can take a deeper look at that,
But I have to assume that whatever was going on in the mill at one time was probably going to be much greater demand than what's going to be in there from apartments.
right.
Also, the water lines in that area are either in really great condition because they've been replaced over the years, or they're in horrendous condition because they haven't been replaced
They
over
put
the
a new
years.
main now. It's
What's
just-
that?
They're replacing the main.
They replaced the main now.
Okay,
But they got, that's a 12-inch feed down that street
yeah,
because of all the factories that were there.
right. So we shouldn't have a real demand issue in that area. that
I
aspect.
don't anticipate it, no.
Mike had something in his report that I had a question about. Let's see what it is. He mentions on the first page of his report, the work being done on the Metacom tank and the Metacom tank. And it was it required removing the tank from service while the work was completed. And the work was all successfully completed and the tank had been returned to service. So when that tank goes up offline, what is the impact in the system? Is the other portions of the system able to make up for that tank not being in service?
So it's the pedestal tank. So
What's that?
it's the pedestal tank that was
Yes.
taken offline.
Yeah,
So that tank serves the high service area.
right.
So when that tank is offline, the pumps at Metacom and the new pump station make up the pressure.
Okay.
Yeah, so those pumps run continuously while the tank was empty. So it's about a week.
So we didn't have anybody waking up to low pressures in Bristol, huh?
No, just Barry.
Just about.
I know, seriously.
Thank you.
Yeah, so that project went well. The tank was completely empty. They cut a new hole into the tank, put a vent, and it's all good. Tank was put back in service, water chlorinated. And as far as the financial report goes, the biggest thing is the audit is almost complete.
Fantastic.
So it seems to be going well, even with the new company, so.
A new company?
CBIZ,
Yeah, new
CPA. CBIZ, CPA.
CBIZ.
Yep.
You're not associated, are you?
I am not associated
Just checking, I just wanted to make sure.
this time.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is board member town council reports. Anything to report from members about their town councils that would affect us? No.
Excellent.
Excellent. Okay, warrant. Next item on the agenda is the board vote on the purchase of a valve maintenance trailer. Steve, explain this to us.
Okay, so we're in the market for a new valve maintenance trailer to replace aging equipment. We put a bid spec out. We received one bid, which is not completely
I skipped
not
another.
surprising, because there's basically one company that makes these.
I skipped another.
No,
Out of order,
Out
sir.
of order, out of order. Sorry about that. Item 7. Let's go back to that.
Well, we can finish 8 and then go back to 7.
Item 7, let's go back to that. You're just getting me confused further on. Maybe. Anyway, high service area expansion.
yeah, this is for board's information with respect to the high service area. Mike put together a good summary of the work that's been done by Power Corporation over the years, and then I did a summary of Mike's summary. Essentially, Bristol County Water started looking at this issue over 15 years ago, and then as the model got developed, and they were able to determine ways to improve pressure in areas of Bristol, mainly kind of around the high ridge of Metacom Avenue there. So the first phase was the installation of parallel pipe in Metacom in 2016. And I just mentioned kind of, you can see the investments that BCWA has made over the years. And then the pump station, were improvements made at the Metacom pump station in 2018 for $2.2 million. And then we had fairly recently those pipeline sections in Metacom Avenue in 2021. And those were put in the ground, but then they couldn't be used until the pump station at Hope Street was put online. And that was recently completed. So with that, we had quite a decent expansion. And I've pulled off some better maps that might put in the body of the report, but it was really hard to see. But you can see here the green was what we had worked with, which is considered
These all the same?
Yes.
the existing high service area. And then phase 1 was with the completion of the pipelines in 2021 and with the Hope Street pump station. Now we still have an area of the Gooding Avenue in Naomi that has not included yet in phase 1 until we finish the pipeline work. But once that does, all those customers in that blue area will be considered phase 1. We do have a report from PAR as far as expanding it even further, and those are the red locations. And those will require some additional pipeline extensions, either on the Metacom to the south and Metacom to the north, or on the western side, pipeline in Hope Street. We intend to meet with Power Corporation to kind of narrow down the scope of work needed to do that, so we get engineering costs. And we do have some in our long-term capital plan, right now, $2.5 million, I believe, for that pipeline work. I'm not sure if that's going to be enough to cover that, because they're talking about maybe 6,000 feet of pipe, mainly on state roadways. So that's kind of where we're at with the high service area. But we've Bristol County Water, like I said, we've had quite a few customers. I think with this latest round, almost 1,000 new customers around the high service area. But there are areas that you can see that the boundary area where the folks are still kind of have, the pressure is not that great. So we continue to find ways to maybe improve those locations. So the plan is for those knock off those red areas that will require additional investment in pipeline infrastructure to add additional customers.
So to get anything in the brown or tan area, requires laying a pipe in first and then feeding off of that? Or not just, is that what that all requires?
Yeah.
Which is the tan area?
All, most of it, the boundary.
No,
area,
no,
the
I-
boundary area, I mean, the boundary area.
No, I'm sorry, I'm not, people
The
see,
boundary area,
people
is-
see
the
color
boundary area
differently,
is
so I'm not
still,
sure which one you're
the
referring to.
boundary area is.
You're talking
Is
about,
that orange?
are you talking about the orange color, or are you talking about this pale color down here?
The boundary area.
The boundary area is an area that,
Oh, okay.
they're not in the high service
area.
Right.
Not the
Right.
tan.
But if you were to put them
Right.
into the high service area, it would require laying a pipe.
Yeah, but it gets a little more complex than that. You got pressure reducing valves at each one of these locations, because you're gonna go from like low pressure to like extreme high pressure at the same time, so. But the people in the boundary area right now, the pressure is satisfactory, albeit maybe in some locations a little bit low, but it doesn't meet standards.
But right now, about how much Bristol is in real has real low pressure problems? Extremely low,
Percentage basis?
that require pumps or systems.
Right, the areas you see in red,
That's it.
yes.
Boy, that's reduced it a lot.
So, going to the undefined areas, is downtown Bristol, actually Papa Squash, near Colt State Park, actually my street. But I have really great pressure where I am, so does it vary greatly in this other area that I would refer to as the tan area?
No, I mean, I'm just showing, the map shows everything here, right? So, other than the red, green, and blue, all those other areas are considered the main service area.
Right.
But when we do the evaluation and analysis, we look at this area called the boundary area to see what kind of impacts adding additional pipeline may or may not have in those locations.
But I'm confused as to what is the problem areas? I can understand,
The problem areas right now is just all the red areas.
yeah.
Yeah,
I
those
can
are those are the
understand.
remaining areas.
I know those red areas is for sure, but I'm just wondering, well, what goes on in the other areas? And how many, go back to John's question about the people who needed to put in pumps in the individual homes, how many are out there? And is there a large amount of those pumps out? I don't know. I know I hear from people who have pumps once in a while, myself included when I lived on Hope Street. And so I don't know if that's something that can ever be resolved. And you hear from people who don't have water service and they wonder about whether they'll ever get water service. And yet I look at this and I say, wow, 90% of the town has got water lines everywhere. So,
Steve, are there factors other than elevation which affects what the pressure is going to be for a location? In the elevation, I can easily see, but when you get beyond that, I don't know what else.
It's elevation.
All right.
Well, we've made great improvements, I can tell you that. We don't have the people here every month complaining like we did.
So this, I would say, the red areas are gonna be addressed, and we would have, at some point in time in our capital projects, a plan to start the red areas and complete that?
We should have a better handle on costs needed, so then when we start looking at our budget and capital budget for next round. Yeah. And also timing. You know, you can see how long it'll take to get this designed and.
Okay, thank you.
But, you know, you know, we've been doing this incrementally, I mean, because it's good to see like how the system reacts, you know, as you're taking people off the main service area, put them in the high service area. And, you know, and we still haven't even completed phase 1 of the high service area yet until we get the Gooding Avenue pipe. So, you know, we'll add those customers. We can see how the system reacts. So we'll have some time as well during that time period. They can take a look at it. So, but it's been very, you know, it's been very successful.
No, and I think those people that have taken their pumps out have really acted.
There's been interest from other water systems and how we've addressed this. And like Mike and I, we're going to be doing a presentation at a New Waterworks meeting sometime in July. What we've done to date on this.
Thanks for the big map.
Yeah, no, I was reviewing these materials this afternoon, and I'm like, I can't even do this.
Any other questions of Steve on the high service area extension? Okay, now we can go to item number 8. The valve maintenance trailer.
Yes, looking at first the valve maintenance trailer, we received one bid from Mox Utility Products. Very important piece of equipment. Helps us maintain valves to address when we have pipe breaks. We know we have valves that work. And the price of this equipment is $96,896. And got a nice picture of it.
Motion to approve
Do I have a second?
utility
Second.
$96,190.
Interesting, the price of these hasn't really changed too much, and then Newport Water purchased one of these just 2 summers ago for pretty much the same price.
Is there any salvage value to the old unit? No?
Yeah, we're gonna put it on a public auction site.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
we may get something for it.
All right, thank you.
A motion to approve, we have a second. Any more discussion? Any questions? No, hearing none. All those in favor of approval?
Aye.
The ayes have it. Next item is task order to Alice's Corporation for Engineering Services related to the design of the new operations building.
Okay, so, as you all know, I'd really like to build a new garage for our operations staff. The facility that we have there is really old and substandard. And I really was hoping to fast track this project as best as we could. So I'd asked for PAR Corporation to, give us a full design up to bid. And, we provided what we had put together, the size of the building that we're looking to do, 17,000 to 19,000 square foot building, site improvements. And we're basically looking for just a rectangular type building, mainly prefab for the garage portion, and then, a smaller kind of block type building for the, office space, cafeteria, utility. utility rooms and what have you. We got a nice package from them. And it was like for like $1.3 million. We had a couple of discussions with them, so, I mean, nothing's cheap today, right? I mean, we're looking at a building, probably, I would think around $10 million. I don't know if the engineering companies look at that, like, oh, it's 10%, engineering is 10% of the cost of construction. In any event, we haven't really budgeted for this type of effort at this time, so. So what they suggested is to at least do a pre-design. We can kind of narrow down the scope a little bit better. They can work together with, the architects would be more involved, the company that they'll be subcontracting with. So they gave us a scope of work for pre-design services for the amount of $109,250. And from that, they were able to expand actually the design, and we can better budget for that to get this done. But I wanted to at least let the board know the kind of like the level of dollars needed for this type of project. So
How much you said, what did you get?
this was 1.3 million.
I'm sorry, after 10 million, I was gonna do
Well, it's not 10 million for the construction of the building.
for the garage?
Yeah.
You heard that right.
Do we expect any money from selling our other properties?
Which
Which one?
The properties right here on the corner. And some of the other property that we own somewhere, can we unload it, that we don't need?
Yeah, well, we're designing this and putting this in a location with the idea of a potential subdivision of that corner.
Well, I understand that, but we have
Right.
any idea what we might be able to get for some of the other land that we're never going to use? I know some of it you may not be able to sell without state approval because we bought it with watershed money, but there's land all over in Massachusetts that we own, and we're not going to use it.
I feel like that's a properties committee issue.
Yeah, I think the properties committee should look into that.
Well,
To help offset the cost for what we want to do and need over here.
but here's a point in the process where we're gonna do a pre-design for a building, not a full design. And we may be committing to spending $10 million across the street. And now, there's nothing special about across the street anymore. It's not property that we need for a treatment plant. It's not anything other than the fact that it's across the street from the administration building. And so when I see numbers like $10 million, I start to wonder, what's out there that we could get for $10 million? Is there anything? I don't know. And is that something that we should put into the mix here? I don't know. It's a longer term question.
As Steve said, I think the property commission the property group needs to get together, lay out a thing, and come back to the board and say, here's what we have. As John said, there is significant property throughout Mass and Rhode Island that we could address. I gotta give a thing to Steve, right? I gave one to Chris already, not a proposal, but a layout of what we have and stuff. But as John says, we're paying taxes in Mass for whatever. We're cutting grass at the dam and the shed.
Right, we're not,
I would like, can we shove that to the property committee?
yeah, our operations have changed. We're still a water supply agency, but we're not owning the supply.
Right.
And so the question is, what are we doing with that land, and is there should we do something else with the land, not own it, type of thing.
That's, the committee can come and tell you what we think.
Right, and that goes back to what I just said, is that there's nothing special about the property across the street other than we own it right now. And if we want to spend $10 million across the street, we can do that. We don't have to worry about the owning of it, the purchasing of it, because we own it. But I don't know commercial real estate at all.
What's that work out to a square foot?
So it's like 6 to 7, it's like 650.
A square foot?
What, to your point, Juan, I guess if we're thinking that it's possible that we might do something other than build across the street, is it prudent to be spending money on evaluating building across the street if we haven't decided that's what we're going to do?
Well, it all fits together. It's all part of it. And, we may do something up front here, and we have a need for what's being outlined here. The question is $10 million a reasonable amount to be spending? I don't know the answer to that
There's
question.
another key question too, Steve, in running the place, is it important, and I think it is, that this building, wherever this building is near the maintenance building.
Right.
So, when you look at the property across the street, what else are you going to do if not for this building,
Right.
right?
Right.
So
And
it kind of makes sense.
And we own some land right back here that the Warren Fire Department was talking about. And maybe that's for our use, I don't know. There's nothing wrong going along with this route, and probably any of this pre-designed services that, if we approve it, and the output that comes from that work could be used anywhere. If we found a building down the street, maybe what's done in this has defined what we need for a building. And it certainly would be defining what we need across the street. So,
But would what they would be designing from scratch be the same as reusing an existing building where you might have to reconfigure it somehow?
right.
And the plans might not be so applicable.
Well, it might be cheaper than $10 million.
So, we have a proposed motion, and maybe notice the trend here is each of these memos from Steve has a proposed motion at the bottom of the page, because I thought it might be a good idea to put words in our mouth. That's something that we could go and at least massage and come out with a motion. And the motion is basically to approve what he is recommending. So what's your pleasure? What you're thinking?
I think this should go to the properties committee first.
Any other thing?
Sounds reasonable to me.
So
Yes.
what you're suggesting is a friendly amendment to the proposed motion, which would be to send it to the properties committee for evaluation first.
It's like I just said it.
But for, guys, Chuck, for what's the Purpose Committee going to do at this point? For this, we don't have another space that we're looking at this time.
You'd be searching whether it's there or there.
Well, some group of the board and the board has to make a decision as to a direction that we're going to go in the short term and in the long term. We might not be able to define the long term, but we can certainly define the short term, which will define the long term. And this is the crossroads here, it seems like, is that we want to get moving on doing something for operations and maintenance with regard to a new building. And that's needed. And so the question is, do we just build a new building? And do we bother to do what is recommended here and do this pre-design, or do we just get into design? Or does the pre-design help us define what the design is going to be and probably save us money in the long run?
Yes.
Yeah.
So
And it'll also narrow down and better define the actual cost of the construction.
Right.
Well, I have no problem with approving the recommendation, but there's nothing on the agenda for us, so how do we get on the agenda to refer a study for all our properties?
We just
Can
put
we
it
just
on-
make that off the floor, Joe?
No, we can put that, when we're doing the agenda for next month's meeting, we can put that on the agenda.
All right.
So a question, Mr. Chairman, so by voting for this, I guess I'm assuming, and again, this may predate me on the board, but I'm assuming the board has made a decision that this is the path that we're gonna go. Has that been done before?
No. No, but this is what's before us, is to take a defined path, and that defined path is, we're gonna spend money to put a building across the street. And the thought here is that, well, maybe we need to do something first. Maybe we just need to put out, just throwing things out there is, we contact some commercial real estate people, or we put an RF request for information out there from real estate agents about what kind of buildings are available in the Bristol County area that would suit our purposes. And maybe it means a combination of this building and whatever would be across the street. I don't know. This is great. This building, to me, has a lot of marketable value. It could be turned into a lot of things. The buildings across the street, not so much.
We're out of bounds. But I think what we need to do, as we've said before, we have to give the guys in the operations a place to put all the equipment.
Right.
Win, lose, or draw. If this is gonna come out and give us a recommended size of the building and what it would be, and post getting the design out there, then you can go out and figure how much it's gonna cost.
Right, and that's why I'm thinking that this pre-design, whereas it's looking at a space across the street and saying, okay, we've got whatever, so many square foot, and it's in this shape, we can put a building of this size there, and it's gonna house so many garage spaces, so many offices, and so on, bathrooms,
Isn't the
whatever.
pre-design going to probably outline,
Right.
what we need and where it can be?
Right.
Or what kind of,
Right, so
dirt
then
or
you,
whatever
then
has
you
to
can
be
take
underneath
that, then you
So-
can take that
Right.
pre-design and say, and at the same time the pre-design is going on, we could be doing the request for information, as I just termed it a moment ago, from commercial real estate people to see what kind of commercial spaces out there that when this pre-design comes in and says we need whatever it is, 30,000 square feet for a building, we can say, hey, there's these other things here. And then we make a evaluation of it. It's going to cost us this much to move in or this much to build.
I'm glad the question was asked, because I assumed that this was already decided in the past that it was gonna be there.
But this motion, if I'm reading it right, specifies the plot and lot number.
Yeah.
So you're pretty much committed to it.
We need.
Says a description of,
Well, they're right, they're gonna be doing it for obviously for
For
here,
over
for
here.
now.
Yeah.
Correct, but it also, it's going to determine the size, needs, program needs. So, I mean, like, I know there's potentially other opportunities, and I'm not, saying blind that, if we find something else, I mean, there was a potential opportunity right up the road that we missed out, actually found out too late about it, but as far as moving the entire operation over there, but, which is why I didn't want to commit us to, a full design contract. I thought, if we just, kind of get this piece done, meanwhile, properties committee can meet, we continue to look at other properties. Do you want to engage a commercial real estate agent to look around at the same time? We could possibly do that if you'd like.
They did the work back in 2021, and the building was smaller, and obviously the cost has gone up. So is it like an update to the prior work, potentially? Yeah.
Well, I guess the way I think about it, given all the discussion we've had, it feels like this should be a needs assessment, if one hasn't really already been done, as opposed to a pre-design, and maybe there's some overlap there, but, I mean, we're saying 17 to 19,000 square feet, but are we sure we need 17 to 19,000 square feet, that we could live with 15 or whatever? So, I mean, I can get my head around doing a needs assessment. I feel a little bit less comfortable if we haven't really formally said that's the site, that we're designing something on that site.
Doesn't this just mean that you're gonna look at that site and you're gonna get a cost of what it would cost for you to build on that site, and now once you have that, now you can take that and compare it to what you could buy somewhere else. But without ever knowing what it would cost over there, how do you compare that to what you
Right.
spend out there?
I think that's helpful, assuming we determine what it is we need.
That's part of all
I think
this.
that's part of it.
Yeah, that's what I
Part of all
think.
this.
Now that gives you a baseline, and now you can go out and look around and say, okay, well, we can, no matter what we buy, we can't beat that because we already own that property. That's how I look at it.
Is it wrong to say that pre-design is almost like a conceptual design? It's not providing specification, plans and specifications
No.
to put out to bid.
No.
So it's not a full design. So it's defining what you will get in a building, in terms of, so many square foot for this and that.
It's gonna define
And-
the space needs. Like Rich, it may not be 17 to 19,000 square feet. I mean, that's a number that we kind of
Right.
put out there, but until we have someone that can put this all together,
So doing the pre-design
it'd be 25,000 square feet now.
15 million?
a tower. So doing the pre-design services is sort of a basic first step, realizing that we're going to be doing a parallel step, if you will, through the properties committee, looking at what's possibly out there also. Because what we do here will define what we would put somewhere else if we.
I think you read apples and oranges. We know we need a garage.
What size?
But that's what this is.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
But the properties commission, the properties committee, we have this, the properties committee needs to look, as John mentioned, around what BCWA owns throughout. Certainly have stuff, for instance, in Swansea, but we certainly don't want to put a garage in Swansea.
No.
So but that's the type of thing. I think we need to come back from a properties committee and say, these are the properties that are owned. Here's our recommendation on what to do with the properties.
Right.
This stands alone because, if you recall, I said that I don't even like voting to buy a new truck if the new truck's going to sit out in the yard. We need to take care of the equipment that we have. Now we're buying a new piece of equipment that's going to turn valves. Where does it fit?
Right.
I don't know. We need to do this and come up with something that says, here's the size of the building we need, because we're going to put in this many trucks, this many tractors, this many guys in there, all of the vans that we have go around town.
And when we have that information on what that building would look like, that is easily compatible or adaptable to an existing building that might be out there.
But I agree, but until you get this and say, this is how many square feet we need, then you can go out into Barrington, Bristol, and
But
Warren.
I'm not saying don't do this. I'm saying this needs to be done, but I think we need to look at it slightly differently. Is that maybe we don't build a building, maybe we use a building, if it's possible. And we have in here 17 to 19,000 square foot building. We can ask the question to realtors, simple thing, how many 17 to 19,000 square foot buildings are there that could house trucks and people. And I'm sure we'll get a lot of information. We may find out there's nothing out there that will meet this requirement.
So what you're recommending right now is take this and table it until somebody goes to Realtors.
No. I'm saying take this and do this work, because we're gonna need this work anyway.
Well, but if you look at the scope of work, isn't that going to produce the wrong product? You know, it's specifying too much, I think. I think we're taking a step back. We're not looking merely at building a building from scratch, but reusing something else, and therefore what do we need conceptually without getting down to the real details?
I can agree with you and say, yeah, we could redefine the scope of this work here so that it's more generic and adoptable. But I'm seeing a pre-design, not something that's showing a lot of specifics in my head. I do. Maybe for $109,000 it should. But we have a motion on the table to adopt this. We have ideas on the table to have the Properties Committee look at existing properties as well as future possibilities for a operations building. I don't think they're incompatible. The motion, I can give the assignment to the Properties Committee to look into this. I don't think I need the board's approval to give an assignment to a committee. And at the same time, the board here can approve this motion and we can move forward with getting that work done. If we want to change the scope of work here, that's something different. And which is what you're suggesting.
Yep, no.
Yeah.
Steve, I'm looking quickly, approximately how long is it gonna take them to do this if we approve it? Approximately? 2 months?
Couple months.
Couple months? Probably, okay.
The idea is that we'd have the information in hand before we start looking at budget.
Okay,
budget
thank you.
season.
Should perhaps, looking at this the pre-design in 2 phases. The first phase is defining the space needs, the 17 to 19,000 square feet. Of that, if whatever they come up with in defining a bunch of separate individual boxes, and they say, okay, they have 10 trucks, they're gonna have 15 trucks, each truck's gonna take up this much space, here's what we need for garage space. They got this number of people, this is what they're gonna need for office space, gathering space, cafeteria space, bathrooms, so on and so forth. And that's a simple process in the design process. So that's phase 1. They get all of those things down on paper and they say, okay, we're gonna need a 17,000 to 19,000 square foot building, and it's gonna consist of these type of things, all these units. And then they can come back to us and say, so what do we do with this now? Do we turn it into a building, or do we turn it into putting it in a existing building?
I mean, I would favor a broader conceptual approach, the way you outlined it yourself, Juan, which then leaves how do you implement whatever they come up with?
Yeah. And I think that we can give that direction. We can give that direction to the director, to give to PAR to say what they want done is this conceptual phase. Once that's done, you have a budget for doing a complete pre-design. And that pre-design may take one of 2 paths. I don't know. And we may be at the point where we say, well, we're going to commit to a building. We're not going to go and commit to anything else. And we're going to sell property. That's a separate thing. So, okay, we have a motion on the floor to approve this, with suggestions for maybe a guidance to the director to ask them to conceptualize something as the first phase of this work. Any specific changes? Any final thoughts?
I guess I would throw out, again, this may be simply semantics, because Steve, it sounds like this is the way you're thinking, though I'm not sure it's worded exactly this way, but when we say regarding task order for engineering services related to design of a new operations building, And that may be part two to what Joe was talking about before, that we're getting a baseline, but I think to me, the primary thought here is we're doing a needs assessment of what we really need, and then we're getting some preliminary analysis of what that might look like on this site, but I don't think have committed to this site yet, even though that may be practically the end game, but I don't think we as a board have approved that yet.
Okay, so what you're suggesting to change here is putting in the scope of work as the basic thing. Basic first step is this needs assessment, and then defining what the building across the street would look like. A conceptual artist rendering, if you will, what that would look like.
Maybe not.
Then when we have that, we can say, this is the way we're going, or we have that needs assessment and we can fit it in the building across the street. We're gonna buy those street houses and convert them, something silly like that. So that's your friendly amendment to the motion.
Yes.
Do I have a second to his friendly amendment? Going once?
I'll second his amendment for discussion purposes.
Okay, well, let's discuss that, I guess, if we have to.
Well, that's what you do.
Yeah, no, that's what the purpose of a second is, but I'm saying let's discuss
If we take that discussion piece and do the needs assessment, can we modify this $100,000 and say, I'll give you 50 grand and we want this first. That'll be line item A, and then line item B would be the next step.
I like that even more.
When you look at their project description in the third paragraph, it pretty much outlines what a lot of the discussion is surrounding.
What page are you on?
It's not numbered, it's part of scope of work attachment 1. If you read that third paragraph, doesn't that really incorporate a lot of what the discussion is?
Includes the design of a single-story maintenance building, that one?
Right, the building, yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Includes pre-designed services to confirm the program, building size, and order of magnitude, construction cost upon the roadmap, and the subsequent phases of the project.
Yep.
So, you know, it really is I think, a needs assessment, and kind of give us an idea.
That's where we should,
Yeah,
that's where we should stop and say, here's what it is, do we agree with it? And then we can go forward with across the street or
whatever.
someplace. I think it should be in Barrington.
So,
It's too
That's what
expensive.
I'm saying, how
Put on Mathis
How far are we
Road.
gonna go to try to find a solution? I mean, is there the possibility of the town of Warren making an agreement with us to take land on that side of the street and give us the place right over here in the back of this building?
it's a possibility.
I mean, but how do we look at that? How do we go to that?
Well, I think it comes down to, they do their work first, they define what we need, and they define what the look would be for a new building across the street, and then we have to sit back and say, what's the other alternative? The other alternative is we're gonna place these uses within an existing structure. We're gonna use existing land that we have somewhere to build it somewhere. It could be across the street or elsewhere. And this is what I think Bob is saying is, and Richard is saying, that we do this work here and then we make the decision. Then my only question is, we say to them, you got $50,000 to do this. That's kind of, I would almost want to say to them, go give us a price on doing it to that step or something.
But my sense is this is the wrong word or the wrong contract to do what we want to have done at this point.
Probably.
Something more simple, just as you outlined, give us a proposal for designing conceptually, what do we need? And why would us building from scratch on a different piece of property we own be any different building here? I don't
Probably
know.
not.
I don't see that part.
I don't see it.
Reusing another building, yes, there is.
Right. Okay, so now that we've confused ourselves. I've confused everybody maybe. We can ask PAR to go and budget this, if you will, to bring, to do the project, to do this preliminary. Provide pre-design services, but the pre-design services are $190,000.
But I think they're going beyond what we're asking for right now.
Stephen, where would you think we should stop, besides this whole discussion?
Then you look at, and Stephen has it here, the pre-design services will confirm programming and space needs, building size, and budget costs for construction and future engineering architectural services. It doesn't say across the street. It talks about the needs of the building here in his description. So,
And these assessments are all part of this whole thing.
Right.
Whole process, so.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think we're probably getting a little bit too much into semantics. I think it seems like we all agree that this should be kind of a two-part thing. It maybe isn't worded perfectly, but I think, Steve, I assume you understand, and we're providing our input. And so I still come back to where Bob and I were, and that we can approve this with that guidance to Steve to make it clear that we think it's needs assessment and preliminary evaluation of this particular site. Which it might say that, but it's a little muddy.
So,
How about if you approve this with the limit up to the 109? However, first will be done, the programming phase, and needs assessment will be done first. And presented to the board before they continue on to the next steps.
Not to exceed the amount. Just approve it not to exceed this cost.
Right.
yeah.
So we need to rescind motions right now to start over
I
again.
would start over.
Yeah, that would be a
I would
cleaner
like to
thing.
rescind my second to Rich's. Then he can rescind his, and who made the approval of the first go?
I don't even remember.
I
I
can
think
rescind it, whatever.
Chris, did you make the original motion?
I rescind my original motion.
Okay,
Everybody rescind.
I rescind.
okay, all motions have been rescinded. So
Motion
now we
to
can
approve
find
up
the
to
new-
$109,250.
Mark's gonna have fun with these
Task order
minutes.
PAR engineering services related to design of a new operation building, obviously with the emphasis on the need study.
Second?
Second.
I gotcha.
Or the guy away?
We got to watch the video.
I'll watch the video, huh? So you just read the proposed motion that's on the
That's correct.
page, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I seconded it.
Seconded.
Seconded the motion.
Any discussion of the proposed motion?
I'll note, I'm not comfortable approving it on that basis when the basic order is so different from what we're talking about now.
I'm sorry, Chris, can you repeat what you said?
So I voted
It's what's on the page.
$109,250 to PAR engineering as presented. However, place an emphasis on needs assessment.
Got it.
Oh, okay. I didn't hear that part.
You want to say needs assessment to be presented to the board prior to initiate additional phases.
That'd be good. Yes, so they would come to us and say this is what we need.
Say that one again, Steve?
It's essentially gonna phase it.
A needs assessment to be completed and presented to the board prior to commencing next additional phases.
Yeah.
But then what phase is there in the needs assessment part out of that total amount of money? And if we were reusing a building, might the amount and the scope of work be quite different?
The needs assessment and where that leads to, I don't think that would be any different because they're gonna go and, it'll be revised. If we do something across the street versus in an existing building, that gets revised in the actual design. Because,
But do we see a needs assessment in and of itself costing $109,000?
I don't think so.
Okay, but then what else are we, authorizing? That's where I'm troubled.
That,
If you look there on, but they have a whole breakdown. Project administration, kickoff meeting, field review, due diligence, programming questionnaire, program spacing, concept, architectural plans, concept site design, design basics, cost estimate, final concept submission. If you read through, everything you're looking for is coming in under those programming questionnaires, programming spaces, and concept site plan. And the only thing that you really need really is an architectural design at that point, with a final solution. If they're, what I read is they're gonna go out, look at how many pieces of equipment you have, square footage, what do the employees think, they put it all together, here's the plan. It's gonna cost you $10 million to build a new garage and office space, or it's gonna cost $2 million.
right,
And it doesn't matter where it is necessarily. You can pick that building up and put it on this side of the street, you can pick it up and put it down over there by St. Thomas Church, on that piece of land.
Have a motion and a second.
Got a motion, got a second, you vote.
No, need to share with
there's two components in the budget that they have. The first one is task 000 at $82,000, and the other one is task 001, which is the pre-designed programming phase for $26,000. If you look at the details to what each of those tasks were, it's the meat here is the first task, which I don't understand, and the second task, 001, has very little expenses associated with it.
But it seems to me that is what we're talking about today.
That's what I would think.
Okay. I'd be in favor of authorizing that segment of it. And I don't think that you do in the RFQ as such.
Mr. Chairman, I'm probably the most liberal member on this board.
Yeah.
But I'm not for paying some engineering firm to tell me something I already know and I already want.
Right. And so,
I mean, for
and I
them to
think,
dress
I
it
think
up.
I think we're almost all in agreement with you because we're trying to minimize the expense here. I don't think any of us will disagree that if they were designing a building and they're gonna come up with plans and specifications to go out to bid to build the building or locate us in some place, that's gonna cost some serious money. But to design, the first thing was a design package of 1.33 million, which Steve's eyebrows jumped up, it sounded like. And this $109,000 is trying to get us something, some basics. And we're all sitting here saying that still seems like a lot of money to get us some basics down on paper to define what we need. And if that's what you want to spend, we can do that. Tom is suggesting that, as I mentioned, the 001 task has a $26,000 value to us. Maybe we should be telling them they should be spending that much money. You're saying you don't want to spend any money to have somebody tell us what we already know. I don't know if we already know it, but I understand what you're saying. So, Tom, are you making a motion to?
Well, we already have a motion.
Yes, I know, but
I'm expressing the way I vote.
are you offering a friendly amendment to that motion?
If it's possible to carve out a piece like this, that I'm not comfortable with altogether. But yes, that's what I would favor. That we approve that that element of the total project.
Okay, is there a second to that?
I'll second that.
Okay, any further discussion on that?
One comment, do you really think this company is going to accept a job for 26 grand? That's not enough money for them to,
I don't know that.
yeah, we don't know that.
But they
it's-
may come back and say we can do it for 47,000 or
Right.
something like that.
Okay,
We don't know that.
yeah.
So we are shooting in the dark. We know they're gonna do something for $109,000. But some of us are thinking that's an awful lot of money to tell us what we think we already know. So,
Mr. Chair, one other question, which is probably directed to Steve, but in the last page of their proposal in the bios for Mr. David L. Potter, it says you oversaw a pair of staff on something for Kent County, but also BCWA's feasibility study for the operations building in 2021. Is that,
Yeah, we've already done some work on that.
we have, okay.
so we have a second on the amendment to the motion.
So can you just restate what this,
I'm going to. The motion is, as was stated by Chris, and the amendment is as stated by Tom, to limit the expenses for this work to $26,000. $26,550 to do a pre-design of what is needed. And that a needs assessment, as Richard mentioned.
Would it be better just to table this to next month? That way Steve can go back and get exactly what we want. And then we don't have to go through this convoluted thing that we're
We
currently
could
going
table
through.
the whole motion.
Sounds like
next
that,
month.
yes.
I think that's the best move, where we table, go back to par, say this is exactly what we want. Then give us
The money we pay this company,
Then
they could
divide.
buy the property across the street and open a satellite office.
So maybe that's the way to go, is to table it to next month and then
I'll
Steve
make
can
a
get us.
motion, we table them.
Okay, we have a motion to table. Any discussion on the motion
who
to table?
seconded it?
Yeah, I'll second.
Oh, I thought he motioned, it was his motion, I thought you were seconding it, but we,
You can take the minute. Whatever, it doesn't matter.
okay.
I have an easy favor. Can we get a copy of the prior report in the next package?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have a motion to table.
To the next meeting.
So like the
Next meeting. Any other discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor to table, say aye. What is this? That was brilliant. Thank you, Steve.
Next meeting's not too secure.
And on to number 10.
It's probably backwards, from what that makes sense.
Vote on reimbursement for water main work associated with the Middle Highway Sewer Project. And you see at the bottom of the page, there's a proposed motion to approve or deny the reimbursement to the town of Barrington for $48,704 for water main upgrades installed as part of the Middle Highway Sewer Repair Project. Stephen, provide us.
I thought the prior item would be easier than this one, but,
No, it's not going.
no, I know it's not that.
Buckle up.
So, as many of you may recall, last year, we got kind of involved in emergency sewer repair that the town of Barrington took on over the Middle Highway. That went on for quite some time, between August and October last year. It was a very difficult project for them. The soil conditions were tough, high groundwater. And then we also there were two BCWA water mains that crossed directly over this section of sewer main that had to get repaired. So, early on, Barrington did a emergency contract with CD Utility. CD Utility approached us to remove a section of those mains. They were older. One was a asbestos concrete pipe, the other was an old ductile iron pipe. To do the work. The work took a lot longer than Barrington anticipated, I think due to the conditions. Also, while doing the work, not only did they take our mains out of service, but in doing so, they struck a water service. And then there were also, due to all the soil disturbance, there were 4 additional main breaks during construction. So it was a very busy location for quite some time. Now the work's been completed. I attached, I got an email from the Works Director asking if Bristol County Water would be amenable to contributing to the upgrades, calling it the upgrades that were done on the mains. So they took out the old main, they put back new ductile iron main, polywrap, so 4 new valves, and they had come up with a number of $123,339, and that didn't even include the markup of CD Utility. So that was the first information I got from them, and the email I got. Well, I said, for me to even remotely consider this request, I need to get some backup. So I got all the backup information from CD Utility regarding all the work. So this binder here. So it took some time for us to kind of go and look at, based on our own inspection reports. We had operators there on site whenever they were touching our infrastructure, we determined the cost of materials and basically 3 days of proven equipment to reinstall the newer pipes and valves and whatnot. So, and that cost comes to $48,704. So based on our review, I am recommending reimbursement to the town for $48,704 for the water main upgrades that were installed as part of their sewer repair project.
I have a question.
Okay.
Yes, I was going to say, prior to a motion being made, let's have a discussion of what has been presented.
My question is, there's been problems in that area in the past when they cleaned up the culvert in the home right there at the corner, had settling problems and well issues. And one of the solutions with the town, from information that I have indirectly or directly, was that they paid to have his house connected to the water system. So I don't know if the town of Barrington did that work with the culvert and did a lot of stuff wrong, which precipitated this. I call it the but-for rule, but for potential mistakes they made in the past. Did they bring upon the issue themselves? I don't know the answer to that. However, I think the dollar amount is fine, considering the review that's been done and what's been presented.
Yeah, that going back, David, that culvert was work done by the DOT years ago.
Okay.
And that project became kind of a mess. Too,
yeah.
when they replaced the culvert. And I think that which led to the issues that Barrington had with their sewer line.
Yeah, somebody sliding an extra steel plate.
Because the whole area kind of just has been settling over time, ever since.
Always been a dip.
Right.
Always.
So when we typically, when cities and towns in Bristol County do work on their utilities or their roads, and they encounter our water utilities, do they usually call us in to assist or give them advice?
Always.
And But then they, since it's their project, they then make a decision on how they're gonna proceed. And in your memo, you said that CB Utility requested to move a section of the mains in order to make the sewer repair. We got involved overseeing the work, but they're doing the work. During the course of the work, CB Utility accidentally struck a water service, and so a break occurs. Did the Bristol County Water Authority cause the breakage?
No.
The contractor for the town broke the water line?
Yes.
So why would we pay for that?
We're not. We're not paying for any of that. We're not paying for any of the pipe repairs that were made during the course of the work. What we're only paying for is for the upgrade of the facilities that were there prior. And that is the pipeline sections that were removed. And so we have new pipe back, and we have four new valves now installed. So when we had old pipe, we have new pipe, we have 4 new valves. The service line that was struck was repaired by CB Utility.
Right.
That is not included as any kind of reimbursement here. Any of the other breaks, repairs by CB Utility, that is not being reimbursed here. Which is why, like, I think when the initial number that we received from them, he had his staff engineer look at all the kind of water charges that were part of this project and threw them all in there. And I had a subsequent meeting with the DPW director regarding this, and he said specifically he was only requesting those sections that resulted in kind of an upgrade to our infrastructure.
So the pipes that were replaced were not, didn't meet our specifications, our current specifications, so they were replaced with pipes that did.
Brand new.
So it's
Yes.
an upgrade to our system.
Correct.
Okay. And that's what we're paying for, is the upgrade.
Yes.
Okay.
I make a motion to be approved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Simple. Okay, now we go on to the exciting things. Executive session.
Motion to go to executive session pursuant to Rhode Island General Law, Section 42-46-582.
Do I have a second? Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We're going into executive session. Open session.
Should I, motion to seal the executive session minutes?
Second.
Second. All those in favor of sealing the minutes?
Aye.
Okay.
So for the agenda item, number,
That's what this was.
You're at 11? Which one do you want?
That's, I don't have the right one.
The revised one.
no, there's a revised.
Number 12.
Number 12.
Number 12. So for item number 12 on the revised agenda for the board vote on the settlement with North Farm, the terms for the board's approval are that the Bristol County Water Authority will provide a $115,000 credit towards North Farm's account to settle all 3 pending litigations. The National Union Insurance Company will pay $35,000 directly to the Bristol County Water Authority on North Farm's account. North Farm will make a $200,000 payment to the BCWA within 60 days. That 60-day period to be agreed upon by the parties, but likely will be the date the releases are signed. North Farm will bring its account current within 1 year. North Farm will sign a release and dismiss all pending litigations including the Supreme Court appeal of the North Farm 3 case. Bristol County Water Authority will provide copies of survey maps prepared by Garofalo Associates in connection with the North Farm 1 litigation, and an item discussed in executive session is that North Farm will be required to pay all future quarterly bills in full. So those are the proposed terms. If somebody wants to
So
know.
moved. Motion, yep. Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. The ayes have it.
Agenda item 13, the proposed settlement with National Union Insurance Company and Glatfelter Management. They will pay $65,000 to the Bristol County Water Authority for the BCWA to settle its pending litigation in the Superior Court and to release any claims it has attributable to counsel fees for the North Farm 3 case. And that settlement will also be dependent on the North Farm case being fully settled as well.
Motion to approve as presented.
Second.
Second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Our next scheduled meeting is on July 24. Do I have a motion to adjourn? No motion to adjourn, second? Oh, we want to stay?
Some second, please.
Second, all those in favor of adjourning, say aye.
Aye.
I just want to thank the board for their patience and understanding throughout this long
Thank you.
journey.
I think Joe deserves the John Deacon Award.